Hello and welcome to the Tips with Toni podcast. I'm Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I am so excited, smiling from ear to ear for you to hear from this next guest. It's a good friend of mine, Natalia Benson. We're in the same mastermind, and she was literally the first interaction I had. I know you remember this. We were both nervous and timid, and it's just crazy to look back because now we're all in that group and we're all so close and good friends. And we had so many great experiences together, but it definitely started out, we both were kind of like, where are we? What are we doing? Anyways, Natalia is someone who I've learned from, that everyone can learn from. She's a conscious business mentor. She's an astrologer. I like to call her a modern day mystic, a women's empowerment coach. She truly is just magical. So if you go to her Instagram page, you follow her on Instagram, you will feel the magic through the page. You would just automatically feel better, just feel her energy. You don't even have to be in her physical presence to just have her energy come across in such a positive light. So I'm so excited for you guys to hear from her today, because I know you're going to take away some super valuable tips and insights. So Natalia, welcome to the Tips with Toni podcast.
Oh, my love. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. And I will never forget the moment that I met you. You were just so, yeah, we were both very nervous. And I feel like you just instantly were this signal that I was going to be good and that there were really amazing people in this group. So yeah, I've just love you. Respect you so much.
Thank you so much. I'll never forget. I think your first question to me was, what was your sign? And I was
Oh yeah.
I think I think she means I'm a Gemini. And it was perfect because you automatically went into reading me, and I was like, oh, I already love this, because I just had a feeling like those conversations were not going to be floofy. They were going to be real, honest, raw. And I think that's how you genuinely get to know someone, learn, and teach. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah, that's my famous first line, and I feel like it's also so California. I feel like everyone here is like, so what's your sun sign? And it's so beautiful. I don't want to say everyone, but it's such a beautiful thing to begin, because for me it's really my genuine interest in understanding you. And just and also that's what I love about astrology, is it really shows us how to empathize with one another's unique differences and communicate to one another in that way. When you get to know astrology more deeply, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I've just brushed the surface with it. I'm excited to even learn more from you. But let's first, before we get into that, because I definitely know the listeners are going to be interested in learning the moon sign and the sun signs. And I know there's other signs. But before we get into that, why don't you first just share a little bit more about who you are, what you do, but more importantly, why you choose to do what you do.
Absolutely. So, well, yeah, I mean, first things first, I'm a women's empowerment coach, and I'm an Aries, just for anybody who's into astrology. So the reason I mention that is just because I've been very committed to carving my own path, which is a very Aries trait. You don't have to just be an Aries to have that quality, but I've just really been someone where it's been extremely important to me to live life on my terms and cultivate powerful connections with other people. And so the ways that I've done that is through women's empowerment work, through money mentorship, being an astrologer, and doing deep inner work on myself. I know we brushed on this for a sec, Toni, before we were jumping on, we were catching up, but I've had a very intense journey, really uncovering who I truly want to be. And that has led me down a lot of very, at times, extremely challenging roads. And I think we all can understand that, because especially when we have a desire to be happy, life will naturally challenge you, because you will have to come up against all of the roadblocks, all of the programs, all of the beliefs that you have against why you aren't just happy in the moment with exactly who you are. And that's really, been quite the journey for me. And, I only recently got into coaching and mentorship, and only very recently got into money work and business work. I originally started as like just a seeker, very into businesses. Like I started my first business when I was 19, mostly out of fear because I just like did not want my parents like dictating like who I were to be based on money. And so I was like 19 years old and I was like, okay, well, I'm not dealing with this bullshit. I'm going to just start making money on my own. And that's such an Aries thing too. And so I basically started my first business in my college dorm room, and I had that business for 9 years. And there was a period of years where I lived off of it. I wouldn't say that's the best idea, TBH, because it was a very young business and it was a product based business. So I learned a lot from that. But then really moving into my 20s, I had addictions. I developed an eating disorder. I've always struggled with body dysmorphia probably my entire life. And so when I moved to Los Angeles when I was about 21, I just got like head first, like all of the all the shit, like all the things that I hadn't dealt with. Because how could I, as a child, still, I didn't have tools.
Right.
But what's so magnificent, and the reason I bring this up is just because those places of like shadow and like challenge and darkness that I was experiencing, those made me who I am. Like those made me such a powerful person. And most of all, in my work now, it's really just made me want to be so clear, loving, and in service so that others, especially younger women, don't have to go through the same confusion that I did. And so it's really, I think that if you ever feel lost in your purpose, a great thing to do is like, well, what didn't I have that I would have loved to have? Because we have a lot of like energy when we focus there. So yeah, that's my story.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, you went over a lot, and I know you will have a limited time today, but I do want to kind of rewind a little bit to, I feel like going to LA when you have a history of kind of, you were struggling on your own, and you said you struggled with like addictions and body dysmorphia and an eating disorder. I feel like LA is super competitive, and that probably, do you think like being in an environment like that made it a little bit harder for you?
Oh yeah, it was Los Angeles, it's so funny because I was there for 12 years and I completely grew everything there, but it was not easy.
Right.
Like I feel like if you, whether you're in New York, Los Angeles, or maybe any major city, and you can like figure out life there, I feel like there's a certain, I'm very woo woo. So it's like, I feel like there's a certain energy like in a city, especially one like Los Angeles. And I'll just speak to LA because it's the only place I've lived
Yeah.
in terms of a big city. But it's funny because I feel like I went through so many inner initiations while I lived there. And the first was really, because you're surrounded by a lot of wealth, you're surrounded by a lot of beauty. I use air quotes because it's a very like aesthetic place.
Yes.
And it's also a lot of smoke and mirrors. Like there's a lot of beauty to it because there I was. I mean, I never planned on becoming a spiritual teacher. Like that was not in like the goal list of just like where, I thought my life was going. So what's fascinating is that while I was there, there was, like I said, shadow and this kind of darkness that I was witnessing in myself that I'd never really known before, like when I lived in Arizona and I was a younger person. But, Los Angeles brought a lot out of me. At first, it was challenging, but then it was like, wow, what am I going to do with all of this? And that was, like I said, it really helped me rise. But, now I look back on it, I'm now in a very healthy relationship. And I was never in a healthy relationship when I lived there. And that's over a decade of time because what I came to realize is that my values were skewed and the people that I was attracting, their values were skewed too. It's just a natural, human beings, we really we're very impressionable. And so when you're in a massive like melting pot of like egos like that, it can be very swaying, where it kind of can take you away from your heart. And
Mm.
so, I went through a lot in that department as well, of just like, what are everyone's values and projections onto me? And really, that was what birthed the eating disorder, because I thought I had to be thin to be loved, accepted, and claimed.
Mm.
And really, like, the universe was like, you're so wrong. Like, that was not like, I wonder how it would have been if I had better guidance while I was there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's very, I think, common. So thank you for sharing that. How did you separate the two, where you thought being skinny meant that you would be worthy of love, and
Mm.
then something in you finally was like, wait a minute, this isn't right. How did you break free from that?
Honestly, just like turning 30, like turning 30, and then really into like 31, 32. Um, if I'm really honest, like really honest with myself, I think that when I got into my relationship with Mick, so right before Mick and I got together, I feel like I finally accessed this place of deep respect for myself, because right before, I like to say, I manifested man hyphen, like I manifested my man, but it's like, but like right before I called in Mick into my life, I started having boundaries with men that I was dating. Like, I just start because I was choosing myself. I wasn't choosing like, oh, are you accepting me or are you choosing me? I
Mhm.
started to choose myself. And so
Mm.
that was like the energetic and the emotional. And then, because having body dysmorphia, which I feel like I've had probably, I don't even know, like probably since I was a young teenager. So it's like, I don't know if I ever saw myself as I truly was. And it wasn't until I got into a healthy relationship with a person who is very comfortable. Like, Mick is just so comfortable in who he is. And he has given me such space to be a powerful woman. And honestly, that has healed my relationship to my body,
Mm.
because I feel like I used to be with people where their worth was placed on how I looked. And of course, now it's like I take care of myself. I love to feel good. And I think when you focus on feeling good, you then look good because you're
Yeah.
focused on the feeling. Whereas before, I was always focused on looking good instead of feeling good. And
Mm.
so there was a big discrepancy there. But yeah, I would say honestly, and it's a very recent thing for me. Like, I think that body dysmorphia and stuff like that is very subconscious. And so until you're really ready to, like, heal at that root and get honest with yourself. And I wouldn't say I'm completely out of the woods. I still deal with it. I've had more time being dysmorphic than I have like really seeing my body as she is and
Mm.
loving her as she is. But now it's like, it's so much easier. And I think becoming a woman, like I turned 34 this year, it's just like, I just feel like such a fucking badass. And like, I love my fucking body. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's just easier now. And it's like I have healthier habits and ways of relating to myself. So
Mm. Oh my God, you said so many incredible things there. It's so true. It's really, really true. I loved that comment about you've had body dysmorphia longer than you have healed your relationship with your body. And I think that's so important. And guys, like, change is never linear. There's always ups and downs. And what Natalia is saying is that she is still healing, because I think we always are, but she's close, and she's getting closer to that completeness where it's like really like it's no longer, it kind of comes up. But I mentioned this too. I've been on my healing journey for a while now, and I'll still have days like, and today is a good example. Today I had a rough morning, like just one of those days that just like things were just not going. I not the great night's sleep, like all that's to say.
mm,
And I started like looking at my body. I wasn't upset about my body. I was upset about the lack of control in my day. That is what I
oh,
was upset over.
mm,
And now I can easily recognize that, and I can check in and just be like, you're seeing seeing something different because you're in a stressed mind right now. And so sometimes you can't always trust your eyes. And I think that's also just important to kind of shout out right now for those who are listening. And as you heal, not every day is going to be a perfect day. Not every day you're going to see yourself and love what you see. But it does get better. But it comes from what Natalia said, changing what her values are. Right. I think
Yes.
that's the biggest thing that you implemented was, and because you knew your worth and you changed your values, you attracted people who had similar values. Whereas in the past relationships, it was the opposite of that.
Oh my God, that you just nailed it. And it's interesting how we will truly project how we feel, and control is we'll project visually how we feel emotionally.
Yes.
So like that, and to me is like the root of dysmorphia. And it's funny. You want to know something crazy, Tony? At our first mastermind meeting in Arizona, when Heidi Powell, right, when she came to
Yes.
speak to us, I remember when she said something about body dysmorphia, and I was like, oh, that's what it is. Like, I was like, I knew the word and the term. It was kind of like amoebic in my mind, but it was honestly after she said it that I was like, oh, that's what I've been experiencing all my life. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like there's such power when I think as we come to know ourselves more clearly, and we have a relationship to our inner world, which is what I'm all about as, like, let's say a mystical practitioner, spiritual practitioner, is like, how can I relate to my inner world? Now, I say this, I'm not like sitting on top of a mountaintop. Like, I'm very into the material. I like to feel good. I like to look good. I like I like cars. Like, I like all this stuff. But the truth is when we feel a certain way and we have a certain inner relationship with ourselves, when our butt looks good, it feels even more wonderful because we have an inner fulfillment. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? It's like, but when that's the only thing, when the
Yes.
external is the only thing, and I've experienced this many times in my life, I still deal with it. It's just like that's kind of I think that the fascinating dichotomy and even challenge of being a human being is like, most of us function mainly on the external, but there's an old saying in the esoteric, as above so below. Like, I think that's even maybe even said in the Bible, like as it is in earth as it is in heaven, or something like that. It's the same adage. It's like what you feel within, what your relationship is to your inner world, is what will reflect on your outer. So I'm sure Tony and I know that we talked about this a little bit, but it's like when we have that inner relationship of confidence or love or respect for ourselves, then you can make the external changes, like in, your diet or in your body or whatever it may be. That's what I've found. And, I actually, it's funny, I never get to talk about things like this because mainly people always want to talk to me about astrology or business or whatever. But the cool thing is like healing my relationship to my body is what has made me even more powerful and successful,
Mm-hmm.
and not powerful over people, powerful in my own life.
Yeah.
And that has just been like, it's the deepest thing. And I think it's something we all, I don't want to say we all, but very often it can get so bypassed. Like, people are like, oh, I'll deal with health later. And I've been like that too. But
Mm-hmm.
it was actually 2 years ago, I invested in, I don't know if she was a dietitian. She was like a like a naturopath or something like this. But I did all the tests, and she helped me heal my digestion, which I had had issues with for forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as I started to get a handle on that, my bloating went down and all this stuff. I just like started to become so much more effective in my life. So I
Mm-hmm.
hope I didn't go on too much of a tangent, but I feel like it's all relevant.
No, but it is. And the idea is that when you feel better and you have self-confidence and you know who you are, you're going to show up as who you are and you're going to just attract good things. And it only makes your life better. And I think people struggle with prioritizing their health because their perception of what that is so extreme and drastic. And, diet
Yes.
culture tells you to cut this out, cut that out, exercise excessively, like ignore your
Oh
hunger. Like it's
God.
so invasive and intense. And it's really
Yeah.
not like that. Like, guys, it just starts with just taking care of yourself better. And
Yeah.
just like Natalia teaches people to listen to their intuition, it's listening to your hunger, it's listening to your cravings, it's honoring what your needs are, it's resting when you need it, moving your body when you feel like you need it. It's not much different than that. So but I do want to switch gears to horoscopes, because I know that you're like, I like talking about this too, but I feel like knowing more about your horoscope, like maybe speak to the listeners about why are you so passionate about helping people understand, their moon sign and their sun sign, and feel free to elaborate on what those are.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So natal chart astrology is mainly what I focus on. So horoscopes are awesome. The actual translation of horoscope is like essentially like of the hour. So that's like a horoscope is like something you see in like a magazine, because that is a tiny, tiny, that like horoscopes are actually like, if astrology was a pie, horoscopes would be like the tiniest sliver. Like, but many of us, we only know astrology through horoscopes because that's kind of what, and horoscopes are awesome. Like if they serve you and you can find a piece of understanding, empowerment, or connection, go with them. I used to write horoscopes for many, many years. And I will say that when an astrologer is drafting a horoscope, know that it's always going to be the broadest stroke because it has to appeal to lots of people. So let's like look at a big part of the astrological pie. According to me, these are just my pie slices here, gluten-free pie, by the way. But let's just say that, one of the bigger slices of the pie, of the astrology pie, is the natal chart. And your natal chart is based off of your time of birth, your place of birth, and your date of birth, of course. And so the idea is that at the center of the horoscope, or I'm sorry, at the center of the natal chart is you. It's the moment you're born. It's exactly what was going on in the cosmos the moment that you came onto the planet. And essentially what an astrologer will do is will then, in understanding the language of the system we work in. So I only know Western astrology. So there's Vedic, based on like Eastern astrology, or like it's very, very incorporated with like the Hindu religion as well, and very in like the Indian culture. And it's sidereal astrology. So it's based on the actual constellations. Now, Western astrology is based on the seasons. It's not based on the actual constellations in the sky, which is where some people will attempt to discredit astrology in general, or especially Western. It's just a different system. And so with the Western system, what I will do is I'll take a look at that moment of what the cosmos were up to, and then I'll translate that for you. So you mentioned moon sign. So what you mean by that is that at the moment you're born, the moon was transiting the sign of this in this house. And then I will interpret that. Then let's say there's the ascendant, which is always the sign that's ascending on the eastern horizon the moment you're born. And guess what they say about the ascendant? And I'll explain what the moon sign means. The ascendant is the energy, it's actually the personality you present when someone doesn't know you that well. So it's more so like what you lead with. It's also what you are ascending into in a lifetime. It's what you're stepping into. Your moon sign is your emotional demeanor. Think about the emotions, like they wax and wane, just like the moon. Like this morning, you said you're having a challenging time, but how beautiful. I wonder what your moon sign is actually. We'll do your chart at some point.
Okay.
But it's really fascinating because you can look at the moon sign and be like, okay, this is actually how I can relate to myself in a healthy emotional manner. This is how I show up in my deep, intimate relationships, because the moon is a very private energy. Whereas your sun sign, everybody knows their sun sign, right? Because everybody knows that, this is always my little astrology joke, but it's like everyone knows about the sun. Like, you know about the sun. Some people pay attention to the moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like everybody knows about the sun. It's the life-giving energy. Well, everyone knows their birthday. And in astrology, we call a birthday a solar return, because what it means is that after 365 days of cruising around, let's say, I don't know, the zodiac wheel, it comes right back to the degree of the day that you were born. So I don't mean this to sound too technical. Astrology is very technical, but it's also very mystical. And I like to, and when I say mystical, the only reason I say that astrology is mystical is only because it does ask you to have a faith and a willingness to be open to energy. And I love energy. Like, I think that that's what saved my life, was getting to know my natal chart and having someone who did not know who I was tell me things about my personality that only I knew. So I was like, how in the frick could undeniable? Like, I was like, how does this person know this about me? And I mean, it changed my life. I mean, here I am, 12 years later, 13 years later. And it has been just the deepest passion of mine, because it helped me come home to my truest essence. And just to make another beautiful statement for astrology, I am a living example of my natal chart. I am living the purpose of my natal chart. The last thing I'll say about it is that the idea of your natal chart is that, just like the blueprints for a house, like you have to have blueprints to build a beautiful house, right? Well, your soul has a blueprint as well. And so the idea, if you want to go into more the esoteric nature of the natal chart, is that your soul had an intention for being you. You know what I mean? And we can get to know more about the lessons and the desire for growth of the soul by looking at the natal chart. So it's pretty freaking awesome. And I'm very into like really deep topics like that.
I love that. We should have done a reading. We should have done a live reading.
I know. Well, if we have time, I can totally pull up your chart. I've got my whole thing right
I
here.
would say, how do people find that out? That might be fun. Maybe we should do it.
Let's do it. I'm totally ready.
I just totally put you on the spot, but
no,
I'm
you
just
didn't.
I guess
nobody can put me on the spot with astrology. I'm literally always ready to read a chart.
As you bring that up, like, where would somebody go? Like, do you have something where people can like find out what their moon sign is and their all that?
Well, here's the thing. I have like a lot of astrology blogs on my website and great free resources on my YouTube. So if you're like interested in this topic, you can also download. I have a free astrology essentials guide. It's all on my site. And it'll link to my YouTube as well. But it's like, if you want to just like dip your toe and explore this, the reason why I focus so much on natal chart astrology is because it was the gateway for me to step into my most authentic self and live a great life. So I'm very passionate about teaching it. And so if you like, the reason why I would direct you to, like, let's say my blog, or you can even say Natalia Benson, like astrology posts or something, you'll find a lot. And I know that there's a post on there somewhere. Maybe I can link it to you, Toni, but where I walk you through how to pull up your chart on astro.com. And there's also so many great websites, like Cafe Astrology is one of my favorite sites. Astro, what are they called? The Astro Twins. I don't remember their website though, but if you Google Astro Twins, they are some of my favorite astrologers. I'm very into empowering people through astrology. And sometimes you have to be mindful. Some older astrology, it's not bad in any way. It's just that astrology is like art, and it reflects the consciousness of the times that it is in. So if you look at astrology like fixed stars from like the freaking 16th century, well, think about life then. It was very hard. So they were very conscious of, anyways, I won't get into this philosophical topic, but it's just different. And so I'm very passionate about how can we utilize astrology now in a progressive way and relate to ourselves in an empowering way instead of a way that freaks us out. That's why sometimes I think people are afraid of astrology and tarot, is because they think it's going to tell them something, but you have to remember that you're the creator of your life. And if anything, these tools can help you create more intentionally.
I love that. I think that's so powerful and so true. I think that's so true. Yeah, I'll
Do you wanna look at
definitely
your
link.
chart?
Yeah, if we have time, I'm going to link your website in the show notes.
Oh, please.
So that way people can find it.
Do you mind giving your your date and your time on air and stuff?
No, that's fine.
Okay, what day are you born?
June 9th. Do you need the year too?
I do.
1990.
Okay. And then what time?
I think like 5:30 p.m. Does it have to be exact?
It does.
Oh God, I don't know the exact time.
Okay, let's see if this is right. Where are you born?
I think I went on Long Island. Do you need the city?
Let me see if Long Island comes up. It should. It just says New York. Give me a city.
I think I want to maybe Manhasset, either like Manhasset or Mineola. How much does this matter? Like, I feel like, what if it's off? So yeah, really, so what happens if it's
really
off by
matters.
like
I'm glad we're doing this actually.
Yeah, because like I don't know the exact time. It's funny. I was at a party the other day and this came up and my mom said one time, my dad said another time, my mom said once. I don't remember the city they said. I was like, oh God, I don't even know when I was born.
I love it. Oh my God. They're like, it was a busy moment.
Yeah.
Spell Manhasset for me.
MANHASSET.
Okay, cool.
New York.
So I have something cool. And you know what? I'm actually so happy we're doing this because this can be a great thing for your listeners, because they might be like, oh, this time doesn't matter. The time really does matter. And here's the thing, we can actually tell. So you think it's between 5 and 5:30.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me see if any of this sounds familiar, and then we'll go from there. Okay. Because you can actually tell if you're not, and I also have this resource on one of the blog posts, but if you don't know your time of birth, there's also WikiHows on like how to do just like a solar chart. So don't worry, guys, in case you don't know. So this says that you have a Scorpio rising with Pluto on your ascendant, and then a moon in Capricorn, and then your sun would be in the 8th. TBH, I'm not sure. Let me just check 5. Wait, did you say 5 a.m. or 5 p.m.?
PM.
Okay, so let's try 5. Let's try 5 p.m. because I just did. Yeah, this is really interesting. Do you feel like you're very, very devoted to work? Do people ever tell you that you're intimidating? Are you very committed to depth and transformation in your life? These are all the things of this chart.
I mean, work is always it's a big priority for me. Mm-hmm. Kind of gets me in trouble in relationships because it's all I ever want to do. Yeah, so work, and then I'm really big on introspection, like figuring out who I am and where I'm going. Intimidation, I hate to make people feel that way, but I might make people feel that way, but it's not intentional.
Because it's really powerful. Actually, you know what? You look Scorpio rising, Scorpio risings, you have a very, because you guys, if you've never seen Toni in person, she's a freaking knockout.
Oh,
you're
Natalia.
So powerful. And but then when you talk to you, it's when I talk to you, it's you just have this warmth and kindness to you. And Geminis are also naturally curious about other people. You are like to connect with others. But it's really interesting, because would you say that transformation has been a big theme of your life? Because I feel like even with the work that you do and the health that you do, it's very about transforming.
Oh, right? Yeah, 100%. Yeah, transforming is I almost feel like we always need to be growing and evolving. Mm-hmm. I've transformed, and I'll probably transform again, and I'll probably transform again. And I think that I'm I used to probably feel like I needed to have it all figured out. But now I'm like, no, I feel like this is part of life. You grow, you figure it out, and then you grow again, and you figure it out, and you grow again.
That is literally it. Here's the thing. I want you to like for sure know your time.
Okay.
So can you access a birth certificate or anything like that? You don't have to do it right now, but
Oh,
we
you
can
know
do it
what? We'll
later.
do it another time. Yeah, we'll do it another time. But I probably do have my birth certificate. Actually, that's a good. I should just look at
Okay, and
that.
then send it
Yeah.
to me because the thing is, and I'm actually so happy we just did this because you guys, this is so important, like knowing the time, because I learned this the hard way as like a young exploring astrologer, where I was reading someone's chart and they were like, this is not me. And I was like, oh no. And then I realized I had 30 minutes, I was off their birth time because the sign ascending on the horizon changes every 30 minutes.
Right.
Which
Okay.
changes the
Which
whole
is
meaning of the
five,
chart.
right? So like 5 p.m. versus 5:30 p.m. Two very different things. Um, so
That
that's
was
good.
fun though.
So that was fun. So okay, so we'll do that. Just your this episode's going to be coming out, I think, a couple weeks after Tracy, and Tracy just came on to talk about the enneagram. Can you talk about how, because that was super powerful? So I think the listeners who listen to that episode already know like how knowing yourself can really help you and just only empower you. Are there differences? Are there similarities? Are you familiar with the enneagram? Like, do they coexist in any way? I'm
Oh my
curious.
God. I wish I knew more about the Enneagram. Tracy already told me that I'm a 6 and I have no idea what it means. I was like, I want to do the test. She's like, girl, you don't need to do the test, my love. I just told you what you are. I was like, okay. So I know nothing about the Enneagram, but here's the thing, whether it's human design, Enneagrams, astrology, tarot, numerology, all of these, like essentially, I don't want to say Enneagrams or even human design are in any way divinatory because, and what does divinatory mean? So like divination is obviously very ancient form of connecting to the deeper parts of life, to remembering that it's not just our egos, it's not just our survival, it's about the soul thriving. It's about the soul feeling connected to something bigger and remembering who you truly are while you're a human, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Enneagram, like I'll maybe pull more like Enneagram human design, which that could be totally wrong. So someone will be DMing me and telling me why I'm wrong, but that's okay. I'm happy to learn. I'm totally happy to learn. But what I would say is just like with any of these systems, they are about, I believe, this is my personal opinion, but they are about like us understanding ourselves more powerfully. There's an inscription on the Temple of Delphi in Greece, know thyself. I don't know what it said in Greece. It was not in English, but it's like, it's like just this energy of like knowing thyself. And I believe that when we know who we are, when we have a deeper connection to our uniqueness and just also who we are as a human being, we are more effective in our lives. And I think it also, even though the practice itself may be self-involved, I actually think the more self-involved and self-aware we are, the more present we can be for others. Because like when we are conscious of who we truly are and we accept that person or that being, whatever you want to call it, it's like we are effective in our lives. And like the only reason I want to say this very quickly, but I had a really dear student of mine last year. She moved through, I do a 9-month coaching certification. It's a very in-depth, it's a bit intense, but it's a very in-depth process. And at the end of it, like the thing I love is just witnessing these babes transform their lives and transform everything about themselves. So you and I, that's probably why we found each other, because we're super deep.
Yeah.
But it was like, she asked me, she was like, how did you create all of this? Because we had just had this beautiful graduation ceremony and just this powerful 9-month journey. And we finished up in like, I was living in Los Angeles at the time in this gorgeous apartment that I was very grateful to have. And it was interesting because she's like, how did you create all of this? Like, not just the external, but like this experience for us and helping us find ourselves. And I was like, inner work, like literally
Mm-hmm.
inner work. The only reason I'm here with you and that we are together is because of the work I've done on myself. And
Yeah.
so whether it's the enneagram or human design or your natal chart, these are all just very simply tools to come to understand yourself more powerfully. And I
Mhm.
think that when we do that, it's incredible what we can create. I think it's actually infinitely incredible what we can create, not just
Yeah.
for ourselves, but for each other. Because all the times, maybe I seem to be selfish because I was healing and working on myself. Well, now I am like a freaking never ending flow of giving. Like, I
Yeah.
love to give, I love to love people. And that's because my cup is full.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And it guys, I Natalia, when we were at the mastermind, like Natalia was, we all voted on who we thought was like the most valuable, and Natalia won with like flying ours. It wasn't like a real competition. It was just like who here is, it was a nice honor for you and you deserved it hands down. Like, and the thing, and I think this is my, and I'm going to be really honest and vulnerable because like I said, I do like to go deep because I'm still growing and healing, and doing a lot of inner work. And I think my deepest fear is not is because I have a history of exhausting myself and giving so much to the point of extreme fatigue that now I'm filling up my cup, but I'm almost like afraid of giving too much because I have a history of that. And I just like was just I'm completely mind blown by just how you are able to show up so fully present and it's guys, you have to watch her like when you do free coaching on Instagram and just like it's incredible to me. I'm like, how does she do it? But I love that your answer was like I think the permission, thank you, the permission is it's okay to be a little bit selfish while as you're still healing,
Yeah.
and knowing that in the long run it's going to help you. But if you want to add any other like tips or suggestions about kind of how to bring it back to you and fill your cup up first, I'd love for you to expand on that a little bit.
Oh, I mean, I love what you said. And thank you for bringing that up. That was such an honor because I mean, I'm like kind of, it was kind of amazing because when we first got in there, I was intimidated. Like, I mean, especially for those of us, I think it was our first year, like in this mastermind. I mean, these are our peers. Like, these are people you have to have made a certain income threshold or revenue threshold to be in this space. And it was just incredible. And I remember when we first got in there, it was incredible to be like, oh my God, what am I doing here? These people are
Mm-hmm.
fucking genius. And
Mm,
then the only thing I told myself was like, just be yourself. Like, you just be yourself and shine your heart. And so when that was announced, I mean, it makes me emotional now, but I cried because I was like, wow, like, because I even went into that week being like, I decided to put down my title, my self-imposed title of introvert, because I've done group stuff before, and my history was like I wasn't very available because I'm very empathic, very sensitive. And I was like, you know what? What would this week be like if I just loved?
mm,
And that was all I did. I was like, what would this week be like if I just loved? And I think when we want to love, we just naturally give. But I
mhm,
also understand what you're saying, babe, because I have a history of doing the same, where, and I think as women, so often where maybe we get it, I don't want to say wrong, but yeah, wrong, is that we think giving is giving from an empty energetic cup because we've been told that anything else is selfish, that we've
mm,
been told that, like, I mean, I've been blessed to work with women for a long time, and most of what I hear is like, well, Natalia, if I do this with you or spend this time on myself, like, isn't that selfish? And I'm like, well, let's be healthfully selfish then, because the only way that you're going to be available for others is if you have the energy to. And let's like take off the glorification of, I'm worthy because I run myself ragged for others and I don't give myself any time. I don't give
mhm,
myself any love. And I think that's
mhm,
what we're healing as a generation as well, because it's just these things get ingrained, they get passed down. I haven't read
mhm.
this book yet, but it's called it didn't start with you. One of my best friends told me to read. I don't know if you've heard of it. I don't even know the name of the author, so I probably shouldn't be bringing it up, but the idea is just the stuff that gets passed down to us from our lineages and culture. But it's our responsibility to heal and see how we can be more, effective in our own lives. And I think that's what each generation, that's like our responsibility, is how can we evolve and heal past what we've been told is right, in air quotes, you know what I mean?
Definitely. Oh, this has been so helpful. I'm going to ask one
God.
more question because it just came up and I know that you have to go. But I think that that
I want to hang
comment.
with you all day.
Me too. I think there's two parts where you mentioned someone may kind of like they have this story that they're kind of giving from an empty cup, and it almost like puts them on a pedestal or makes them worthy for like being productive or being extra helpful or putting others before them, and almost like a badge of honor.
Yes.
I think there's definitely that part, and then there's the part that I can relate to, because I didn't fall in that part. I related to, I was almost like running for myself. I almost like didn't, I mean, I guess there may be a part I just like didn't feel worthy. I almost felt like their time was more valuable than my time. And like, well, I'll be okay, but like they need me, and like genuinely feeling that way. And like that, even if I needed help, it wasn't enough. Like my problems weren't big enough or whatever that was. So how does one, because we keep talking about like knowing yourself and going back to you. But what would you suggest or say to the people who almost kind of know that, but are afraid to go there?
Yeah, wow, that's such an amazing thing that you bring up, where it's like when our assistance is coming from this place of like, yeah, like running from our own stuff, right? Is that like what you're speaking to?
Yes.
Okay, and then ask me the question one more time. I just want to make sure I'm super clear.
Yeah. So for those who are kind of like running from their own stuff, like what would you suggest to them? It's almost like they have this conscious awareness that like they have problems, but they almost feel like their problems aren't big enough to sit with.
Yeah, the thing that comes up in my mind as you ask this is, I remember when we were doing, last year was our second year of MBCC, which is the coaching certification. And I remember I got an email from a gal, and she was like, "Well, is this just about like helping people with their problems, or do we have to work on our own?" And I was like, "It's all about working on, I don't want to say it's all about working on your problems. Like that's not it. But it's like that's how I teach coaching and mentorship, is just like you have to first be accountable to you. Like that's where I think, anyways, I don't mean to go into these deep philosophical like things, but it's like I think that's where we've gotten like a little bit off route, and as a humanity, is like just forgetting that we matter, and that we get to matter, and that we like that things that ail us, or the things that come up for us, not to bypass them, because that's actually where all of our magic is. Like that's actually where all of the opportunity is for our lives. So I hope I'm answering the question, but I would just say this simple thing is just like, know that you, like I heard this saying, um something like, if God places something in your life, like it means that the you have what it takes to overcome it. Like nothing comes to you by accident. And so I think, whether you like the word God or universe or whatever word suits your heart, it's just like, I think that we have to remember that the hangups in our own lives, the challenges, the setbacks, or the insecurities, they're all there as like a medicine. They're all there to help us become the most powerful, incredible version of ourselves. They're not I always like to say, your issues are not an identity. They're an opportunity. So your issues, your problems, they are not an identity. They're an opportunity.
I love that.
Right? Because what if we looked at everything that way, that the things that go on, they're not meant to be like a forever thing. They're literally meant to be like, how can we grow and evolve through this? I hope that helps. Did I answer the question?
Yes, it definitely helps. I'm glad I asked that because that quote is going on my stories. I am like shouting that
I
quote
gotta
out
write
from the
that down
rooftop.
too.
I love that. Yeah, you got to write that. I'll tag you.
Thank you.
Oh my God, this is so good. But I know we could talk about so much, guys. Natalia is so knowledgeable. So if you have any questions, reach out to her. She does. Are you still doing those live coachings on
Yeah,
IG?
at the end of the month, the fourth Wednesday of every month, I do like IG. It's typically around like business and money, but come kick it. Like just say that you heard me here and tag Toni and just like let's
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah,
Love to
definitely. And
see
there
you.
are there are other definitely other business owners that listen to this. And I
Awesome.
think everyone benefits. Like I've like thrown it in here because it's a nutrition and lifestyle podcast. So like I've thrown in money mindset and stuff because it is super
Yeah,
important.
it's all
But
encompassing.
it really is all encompassing. So anyway, reach out to Natalia, let her know what your takeaways were. If you want to take a screenshot of this episode, do that, tag us on Instagram, and let us know what you enjoyed, what you want to learn more about, because I could always have Natalia back because she really is a wealth of knowledge and she can talk about so many different things. So let us know what you want to hear. Natalia, thank you so much for being here. Is there
Oh,
any
thank
last minute
you.
comments or anything you want to add?
No, no,
Where
I'm
can people
just
find
so
you?
grateful. I'm so grateful. Yeah, I'm super active on Instagram, just at Natalia_Benson. And my website is nataliabenson.com. And make sure, like I said, you can even Google my name and then astrology, and you'll find like quite a lot of resources.
Awesome.
So
I'm
thank you,
gonna
my
find
love.
my birth certificate later and send it to
Yeah,
you.
text me. I love you,
I will.
babe.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.